Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. Hopefully, you all can hear me clearly. If you can hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat and we can get today's show started. There will be no camera today. You will not get to see me today. And for those of you who are subscribed to Just Talking with TD and Rob, um, you'll get this. You'll find this a little humorous for why I don't have the camera on today for today's live stream. I don't have it on today because I still haven't shaved. I still didn't shave in between yesterday and today. I still haven't shaved. So I said, you know what? Since Just Talking with TD and Rob, we did that live stream already, and that's out the way. What's the point of shaving now? So I figured, just no camera today. I didn't feel like shaving, no camera. So, anyways, let's get into today's show, man. Before we do so, please make sure you hit the like button. There's 153 people in here right now, or 160 people in here right now. So please, Kid Gravity said, unsubscribing. Kid Gravity beyond unsubscribing because I'm too lazy to shave. Unsubscribe. But hit that subscribe button if you haven't unsubscribed already because I'm too lazy to shave. And also hit the like button. 167 people in here right now. Hit the like button and share this video out, right? So also as well, hopefully if I can get through today's live stream fast enough, quick enough, I have a very interesting kind of funny story to share with you guys, but that's if I get through this fast enough. But I'll give you a little teaser, right? I'll give you all a little teaser. I think Kamala Harris might be dividing me and my family. I think Kamala Harris might be dividing me and my family. And when I say family, I mean a really, really good friend of mine that I grew up with. Me and him are like brothers. Me and him are like brothers. But I think that Kamala Harris is dividing us now, might be putting a wedge in our 20 plus year friendship. But like I said, this is a little teaser. Hopefully I get through this fast enough. I can tell you that little quick story. Okay. So anyways, let's get to it, right? Let's get to it, right? So that I can get to the story. Now, as far as like the Democrats are concerned, and or the left, as far as they're concerned, they love calling out, misinformation and disinformation, and when all else fails, they pull out the big guns and they label whatever you're saying as dangerous rhetoric. They love to call something dangerous rhetoric whenever they don't agree with what you're saying, but they can't like really prove you wrong. Now it's dangerous rhetoric, right? But nobody like actually engages in this as much as they do, especially when it comes to dealing with Black Americans, right? And on today's live stream, what I'm doing, I'm charging Kamala Harris with spreading misinformation, disinformation, and dangerous rhetoric. Okay. Because about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, right? I believe it was about 2 Fridays ago now. She spoke at Al Sharpton's National Action Network conference. And she said a whole bunch of things that I could easily spend about the next 2 hours on picking apart. But the most misleading statement that she made was the conflation of mass shootings with gun violence in the Black community, right? You cannot conflate those two things, right? Because those two issues, mass shootings, right, and gun violence in the Black community, those two things are two completely separate issues. One is almost purely an economic issue, and the other one is someone with a firearm who's having a mental breakdown. Okay. That's what we're talking about here. They're having a mental breakdown and they're taking it on, and they're taking it out right at the population at large. So they're two completely separate things. You can't conflate the two. And Kamala Harris knows this. The Biden administration at large knows this. All government officials know this. Don't ever assume that they don't know these things, that they don't know the data and statistics, that they don't understand these things. Okay, they all know this. Yet she continued to conflate the two, anyways, to trick Black Americans into believing that if we could just pass gun control laws, right, gun violence in the Black community would go away, and that's a lie. Kamala Harris is lying to you. It's just not true, because gun violence in the Black community isn't rooted in issues as they would pertain to needing stricter gun laws. It's just simply not true, right? So now, what essentially she's attempting to do by conflating the two issues is that, by doing this, this then puts Black folks in a tricky situation, or in a situation where they've been tricked, right, or been duped, into believing that gun control laws will eliminate gun violence in the Black community, right? So now we're going to spend the next decade or so voting blue no matter who, in the hopes that we can pass said gun control laws that will do absolutely nothing to curb gun violence in the Black community. Because the issue, like I said, is almost purely economic. This is an issue of needing legislation that works towards closing the racial wealth gap. But, hey, don't believe me. Believe the evidence, okay? And that's going to be my new saying from this year and moving for the rest of this year moving forward. Don't believe me. Believe the evidence. Don't ever believe anything I say. Believe what I can prove to you to be true. Believe the evidence. So now what I want to do is let's get into this video clip here. It's about 3 minutes long, and it's of Kamala Harris conflating the issue. So I want to play that for you first, and then we'll get into the evidence. And once again, before we do so, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this video out, and make sure you hit the like button as well. And also, too, by all means, please show love to the channel. You can show love via Cash App at $tdhiphop. And look, right as I was saying that, shout out to Mr. King for becoming a new channel member. I appreciate you for becoming a channel member. You can do that for as little as $3 a month. You could also show love on Patreon. The link to that is in the description box below. Show love via Super Chat or Super Thanks. So now let's get into today's show. And once again, shout out to you, Mr. King, for becoming a channel member. And let's get into Kamala Harris's babble.
In our country, already in the 104 days of this year, there have been more than 150 mass shootings. Already this year. Just think, you've seen the statistics? Gun violence is now the #1 cause for death of children in our nation. And a heartbreaking 1 in 5 Americans has lost a family member to gun violence. And, while all this violence impacts all communities,
Here we go.
in devastating ways, we know it does not do so equally.
Here it comes. Here it comes. You knew it was coming.
Black people are only 13% of America's population, but more than 60% of homicide victims from gun violence. Meanwhile, as Rev said, we speak here while the NRA is holding its convention in Indiana. Now, you know what they've called it? They have called it a, quote, freedom-filled weekend. So we must ask, freedom-filled for who exactly?
It is so hard to listen to her speak. We got like a minute and a half left.
Because it's not for the parents who pray that their children will come home from school safe, from a classroom in Uvalde or Nashville. Not for those who pray that their loved ones will come home safe from a bank in Louisville, Kentucky, from a grocery store in Buffalo.
So you see the conflations that's going on. It's going back and forth between mass shootings and then gun violence in the Black community, and now mass shootings again.
Or from everyday gun violence in communities across our nation. Let us all declare enough is enough. Enough is enough. And And here's the thing, the solutions, because there's clearly a problem, the solutions are clear. We must have reasonable gun safety laws.
Liar, liar, liar. See how she's lying right now? She's lying to black folks. Remember, the National Action Network, this is an organization that's geared towards addressing black issues, allegedly, right? She's lying to you all right now.
At the state and the federal level. And by the way, most gun owners agree. Even the majority of NRA members support background checks for all gun purchases. So let's reject the false choice that some are pushing to suggest that you're either in favor of upholding the Second Amendment or you're in favor of passing reasonable gun safety laws. Let us reject that false choice. We're not falling for the okey doke.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes, we are. We stay falling for the okey doke. But hopefully, some of these folks, some of these videos that I make can pull some of us out of falling for the okey doke. But we definitely falling for it. Black folks stay falling for the Democratic Party okey doke. And like I said earlier, when it comes to the conflation of gun violence in the black community and mass shooting, is two separate issues. And like I said, gun violence in the black community is almost purely an economic issue. Uh, and like I said for the third time, don't believe me, believe the evidence. Believe the evidence. And that's what we're going to get into right now. We're going to get into the evidence behind the actual reasoning behind gun violence in the black community. Okay, so let's jump into that right now. And to do that, I want to hop into this New York Times article. Let me pull this up on the screen right now, right? And let me just move over just a second. Okay, so this article is titled Childhood's Greatest Danger, the Data on Kids and Gun Violence, right? And I think this is a really good thing that I'm able to pull this from here to the New York Times because, we all know the New York Times, just like CNN by and large, is, state sanctioned media. To be more specific, it's a Democratic news. It's a Democratic news channel, right? It's a Democratic news company, right? Democratic Party, I should say, news company. So they're giving it up on here, right? As to the actual reason behind gun violence in the black community. So as you see here on the left-hand side, it says black boys are now 8 times as likely as other children to die by gunfire, right? So we're just going to go through a few statistics concerning that, and then we'll get into the economic issues surrounding that, right? So let's start reading. Black children represented almost half of all gun deaths and 2/3 of gun homicides involving youths last year, despite making up about only 15% of children in America. This disparity of death has grown significantly worse in recent years. Black children are now nearly 6 times as likely as white children to be killed with a gun. And here are a few statistics that just kind of break that down, little data points, right? The recent spike in gun deaths for black children builds on a continuing phenomena in which some children are exposed to much more violence than others. While guns became the leading cause of death for American children only recently, they have been the leading cause of death among black children for at least 2 decades, right? About a decade ago, black boys were killed with guns at a rate of about 12 out of every 100,000. 5 years ago, it was 15 out of every 100,000. By last year, nearly 26 out of every 100,000 black boys in the United States were killed. Comparatively, the gun death rate for white boys last year was less than 5 out of every 100,000. Shocking and amazing statistic, and sad one as well. Gun death rates have risen most drastically for black boys, but the rate has also risen in recent years for white and Hispanic boys, and for black girls. Although girls make up a small portion of total gun deaths, The imbalance between black girls and all other girls is vast and quickly widening, right? And here goes some more little data points by way of statistics right here. Okay, now let's get into this portion right here. Okay, black. Well, let me show you this first, just so we get a really clear understanding of how bad gun violence is in the black community. Right? I shouldn't just pass this part up because having this visual here is kind of like shocking to say the least. So it says here total gun deaths of children age 1 through 18 by race and ethnicity, right? So in 2013, Hispanic 286, all others 59, white 759, and black 687. That's in 2013, right? In 2017, it jumps up quite a bit for everybody, for pretty much everybody. Hispanics, it goes to 439, all others 81, whites 1047, and blacks 1003. But then by 2021, you see gun violence in the black community explode. It explodes. For almost everybody else, it doesn't move much, right? You see for Hispanics, it went from 439 to 620. All others, it went from 81 to 79. For the white community, it went from 1,047 to 1,063. But for the black community, it went from 1,003 to 1,735. Okay, so it exploded. But now we're going to dive deep into why this is happening, right? What's actually going on? Okay, so it says black boys, and as you can see here, I just want to point this out before anybody else does in the comment section. You see, I have black here, but where it says and Hispanic, I don't have it highlighted. I don't have it highlighted because once again, you all know me. I don't like the conflation of issues, right? I don't like the conflation of issues. It drives me crazy. We're looking at the data right here. In when you're looking at gun violence in Hispanic community versus the black community, it's just it's not comparable, right? And then when they're writing an article here, which they're supposed to be focusing on black people, where it says black boys are now 8 times as likely as other children to die of gunfire, and you start conflating the issues talking about black and Hispanic, I I just can't stand that because it's very disingenuous and it's just wrong. If we're talking about black folks, then keep the focus on black people, right? So now I'll get off my soapbox with that and let me read this off. Black boys and girls are likelier on average than their white counterparts to live in neighborhoods with high levels of poverty, a situation that often stems from structurally racist practices like segregation. And they're more likely to be proximate to the kinds of violence that are concentrated in those neighborhoods, right? That's not it. We're gonna focus some more on this economic poverty and simply being poor. Although the illness, I still don't like to say that word. I know we're far removed from like being able to say C19 and all that, but I still like to be careful on YouTube. Although the illness cannot be fully responsible for a trend that began well before the illness, right? Researchers said that stresses related to the illness, which has killed black people at higher rates than white people, might have exacerbated existing differences in gun deaths among both adults and children in recent years. In places where violence is in places where violence is endemic, people pick up guns because they feel unsafe, and that perpetuates a cycle of violence. Jay said during the time of the illness, the trauma of losing loved ones to the illness, seeing black people being killed by police, and then seeing an increase in violence likely have perpetuated cycles of violence. He added, because of the cyclical nature, it makes sense that a lot of folks continue to feel unsafe, right? Now, let's really get into the meat and potatoes of this poverty, okay? And how poverty connects to gun violence, okay? Let me why do I have this so bright like that? I can't see. And also, there's what 361. I'm gonna say 361,000. There's 361 of you in here right now. Please hit the like button if you have not already. Hit the like button, share this video out, and if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. So now it states here, one pattern is consistent. Okay, one pattern is consistent. Shout out to Cutthroat Nash for the super chat. I'll read that off in just a moment. And Cutthroat Nash always showing support to the channel. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. One pattern is consistent. Poor neighborhoods and those with a high population of Black residents. I'm going to repeat that again. One pattern is consistent. Poor neighborhoods and those with a high population of Black residents. One more time, Umar. One pattern is consistent. Poor neighborhoods and those with a high population of Black residents, whether in cities or suburbs, are more likely to suffer from gun violence than others. Children growing up in poor neighborhoods in Houston metro area are twice as likely to be shot and killed as other children there. In the Chicago area, the child gun death rate in poor neighborhoods is 7.5 times higher as in others, as in others. In the St. Louis area, it's 10 times as high. If I'm not mistaken, I believe St. Louis is the murder capital. Like it goes down in St. Louis, man. It goes down in St. Louis. Now I want you guys to see this right here, and hopefully you guys can see. Matter of fact, let me make sure to take this link and put it in the live chat for you, right? And I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see this data point here better. But let me leave the link to this article in the live chat, right? I want you all to have this for yourself and to be able to read it for yourself and decipher it for yourself. And also, before I continue, since I'm here, Cutthroat Nash says she's using Black boys as a prop to get the votes of old Black people and Black women to ban guns. What I notice is that demographics of people in our community are afraid of guns. I'm not falling for it. That's what Cutthroat Nash had to say. Shout out to Cutthroat Nash for always showing support. And thank you very much to Traveling Man with your contribution to the channel as well. Traveling Man with the super chat says, Black First Empowerment Media. Greetings from St. Albans, Queens, New York. Thank you very much to Traveling Man. And shout out to everybody in St. Albans, Queens, New York. Right. So now let's get more into here, right? Because I want to hammer this point in about poverty and its connection to gun violence in the Black community. Okay. Child gun deaths since 2018, as tracked by the Gun Violence Archive, and poverty in 3 major cities. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this better. Give me a second, because I have 2 screens in front of me. So one is I'm watching what you guys are watching as well while I'm doing this. I just want to make sure that we're all seeing the same thing. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, right. So now here's Chicago, right? This is Chicago. The yellow dot is child died. The little green portion right here, the green blocks, is 25% and up, 25% plus poverty rate, 25% plus poverty rate, right? And child died. Okay. Now look at this. Matter of fact, I do need to zoom out. Look at this. Look at the connection between poverty and gun violence in the Black community. Look at all of the little yellow dots where, quote, child died, and look at how they're all concentrated. All of them in Chicago, they're all concentrated where the poverty is 25% and over. Look at this. Like I said, don't believe me. Believe the evidence. Don't ever believe me or what anybody says. And a lot of, I almost said too much. I'm not going to get into all that. Shout out to Blacklight Revelations. I was about to go on a Blacklight rant and start, low key sneak dissing people without saying their name, but let's keep it professional, TD. So don't believe me. Believe the evidence. Do not believe me. Believe the evidence. And the evidence is right here in front of your face. The connection between poverty in gun violence in the Black community, right? Let's go to St. Louis. Same situation. Look at the connection between gun violence, child died, and a 25% plus poverty rate in the Black community. Look at this. Look at this. The evidence is there. All the yellow dots is where the extreme poverty is, right? And also shout out to the 6-4. The 6-4, thank you very much for showing support to the channel. The 6-4 said, thank you for your work, journalism at its best. I appreciate your support, the 6-4. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. And to everybody who showed love to the channel thus far. But look at this, and I'm going to go through one more little data point, and then we'll move on, right? Here's Houston, because they started out talking about Houston. Same situation, right? Wherever you see the extreme poverty at and where you see Black folks at, poverty plus Black folks equals gun violence. So this proves to you, the evidence shows you that this is an economic issue, right? Gun violence in the Black community is an economic issue. It is not a gun control issue, okay? That is not what this is. And that's why what Kamala Harris is doing is so dangerous. She's, in my opinion, she's engaging in dangerous rhetoric, right? It's misinformation and disinformation to conflate mass shootings with gun violence in the Black community just to sell Black folks on voting blue no matter who, so that we can get we could pass a gun reform bill, a gun reform law, right? And then after the gun reform law is passed, the gun violence in the Black community will persist. It will still be there. And that's part of the game that's being played. That is the game. We get you to, we trick you into believing that certain issues are your issues, or we conflate issues together like what we're seeing now to get you to focus on a gun control law that won't solve gun violence issues in your community. The issue is still there. So since that issue is still there, that's always something for us, the Democratic Party, to pick at and to use in our favor to continue to get your votes, right? So they never assist you in solving any of your issues. They always have you in a situation where the issues will maintain, they will persist, they will always be there, so they can always go to that well for votes. Okay? I've said this so many times before in the past, I'm going to say it again. The number one pressing issue in the Black community is closing the racial wealth gap. Anything outside of that is a waste of time. It is a waste of time. I will die on that hill. Anything outside of closing the racial wealth gap is a waste of time. That's why I don't really cover too much of anything else other than things that kind of surround economics for the most part. That's what I've been really known for on this channel, right? For the most part. Closing the racial wealth gap is number one. Anything outside of that is a pure waste of time. Doesn't matter. Okay, I think that's it for this, right? Or at least for this piece of evidence. I want to go to some more evidence as well. And before we do so, there's 418 of you in here. So please hit the like button if you haven't already. Share this video out if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed already. And the next piece of evidence I want to get into right now is this right here. Okay. So this is a report that came out, I think, I don't know, maybe about a year or two ago. No, right here. It came out in March 2020, right? And it is from what is the name of this organization? This organization was called, this is the website right here. It was called the Educational Fund to Stop Gun Violence, right? That's what it was called. EFSGV, Educational Fund to Stop Gun Violence. That's what this organization was called, but it has since now turned into, as you can see here via the website, EFSVG is now the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions. Okay. Now, this is very telling when you look at this report that they have here, and I will leave the link to this report in the live chat as well right now. Give me a second while I do that, so you'll have this. So put this in here. Why is it Chrome extension? I don't know. Anyways, here it goes. I just put the link in the live chat anyways. It should work perfectly fine. I would hope so, right? But this is it right here. And I just want to go through Their list right here. Now, based off everything that I just said and that I've been saying, what did I say again? Don't believe me, believe the evidence, right? Don't believe me, believe the evidence. Look at how they have the root causes of gun violence in the black community listed off, right? Or the root cause of gun violence, right? Check this out. Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. Okay. So here it is. The root cause of gun violence. Policymakers must address the social and economic inequalities that are the root causes of gun violence in impacted communities of color. Our favorite word, of people of color, right? The root cause of gun violence include number one, economic inequality. Number two, poverty. Number three, underfunded public housing. Number four, under resourced public services. Number five, underperforming schools. Number six, lack of opportunity and perceptions of hopelessness. And number seven, last, dead last. Mind you, they have this dead last in their report: easy access to firearms by high risk people. Don't believe me, believe the evidence, okay? Don't ever believe me or what anybody else says. Believe the evidence. Gun violence in the black community has nothing to do with the need for gun control or gun reform. That has nothing to do with anything. Kamala Harris is a wicked liar. It has everything to do with economics. It has everything to do with the need to close the racial wealth gap. It is largely an issue of economics in the black community. There are 7 points that was listed off here in this report. And of the 7 points listed off, 6 of them were related to economics. It was related to poverty. It was related to hopelessness and despair, largely because of the poverty that our people are living in. And the last thing that they had on there was easy access to firearms by high risk people, which would be right gun control type stuff, right? You know, very quickly, give me just a second. What's going on? Where's the? Oh, okay, here we go. Shout out to James Mitchell for the super sticker. I appreciate the support, James Mitchell. Thank you very much for your contribution to the channel. But like I said, don't believe me. Don't ever believe me. Believe the evidence. That's the mantra, I think I want to say. What's the See, this is where I need Rob to help me out, but he's not here. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm always bugging Rob for something. Even if Rob isn't on a live stream with me, I'm always bugging him. I see him in a live chat. Help me out, Rob. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not the mantra, right? Somebody help me out. Help me out, Rob. Do something. Say something in the live chat. Help me out. But that's the motto I want to say. There we go. That's the motto. That's the motto moving forward. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody. Believe the evidence. Shout out to Thank you very much, Lord Sky 9. Lord Sky 9 said, I suggest people look up deconstructing the 1350. I'm sorry. He said, I suggest people look up deconstructing the 1350 agreement. The media and now the White House have used false and misleading homicide stats in attempting to condemn the BC. I'm assuming he means the black community. Um, so I'm deconstructing the 1350. That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm definitely gonna look into that. I'm definitely gonna look into that. Thank you very much for your contribution, Lord Sky9. You're always showing love as well. I mean, everybody that's contributing right now, you guys always show love. So thank you very much. And Tom Slick, thank you very much for the super sticker. The support given to this channel is much appreciated and needed. So thank you all very, very much, very much. I'm very humbled by it. Now, there's one more piece of evidence that I want to get into right now, and it's not surrounding economics, right? But it's concerning, when we're talking about gun violence in the black community. Oftentimes, what's thought of is just simply like kind of like just the gang banging stuff, and people talk about what about black on black crime in Chicago, right? Like they think about that kind of stuff, right? But here's something that people don't consider, especially when it comes to the black community. We don't consider this. And thank you very much, I can't pronounce your Yalia, Yale, Yalia. Thank you very much for the super sticker, Yalia or Yale. Thank you very much for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate it. But they don't consider this, what I'm going to bring up right now, right? And here's what's not considered. What's not considered is suicide, right? Suicide is never considered, and suicide is never factored in when speaking on gun violence in general, right? When speaking on gun violence in general, and it makes up a fairly significant amount of quote gun violence overall is suicide, but that's never spoken about, right? So I'm going to read from this article here. This is from what is it? Global Health Policy, KFF. I don't remember what that acronym stands for, but from what global health policy is right here, right? And let me do you all a favor. I will leave this in the live chat right now as well. If you're watching a replay, I will remember to list all these links in the description box below. But the live chat is still accessible to you if you're watching the replay of this. You can still like watch the live chat, and the link is right there. So click on the link to this report that I have in the live chat right now, right? But nobody ever factors this stuff in, right? So let me read this off. And the reason why this is important as well to factor this in outside of the poverty issue is because poverty is the number one cause, the number one issue behind gun violence in the Black community. But then we also don't want to acknowledge the mental illness in general that exists, right? The mental health problems that we have. Suicide, in my opinion, is a issue of mental health, right? I think that we could all agree on that, right? And that's something that's not acknowledged as well, by Kamala Harris. She's just spooking you all into believing that mass shootings and gun violence in the Black community is all the same thing when it's not. It's economic issue, largely, primarily, and a mental health issue, right? But it's enough of me ranting on. Let me just get straight to the data. Once again, don't believe me, believe the evidence. Not all firearm deaths are a result of violent attacks. In the US in 2020, 30% of child and teen deaths by firearm were ruled suicides, okay? And 5% were unintentional or undetermined accidents, right? 30% is a large number. That is a huge, huge number, right? But now let's get to Black folks in suicide, right? Or I should say Black children in suicide. Black children, and particularly young Black men. This article right here is evidence, the evidence that I'm referring to right now, the evidence. Don't believe me, believe the evidence. When people want to refute what I'm saying and they just start telling you a whole bunch of what they think and how they feel, click off their videos. You got to have evidence if you're going to if you're going to try to refute what I'm talking about. If they don't have evidence, I'm not trying to hear you, and you shouldn't be listening to them. Let me leave you the link to this article right here from the Atlanta Voice. This article is titled, I don't want to be, suicide rates are rising among young Black men. Okay. Now remember this in its correlation to gun violence and all that, right? Among the many health disparities Black people in America face compared to their white counterparts, at higher risk for heart disease, cancer, stroke, asthma, obesity, lack of access to mental health care services, medical care and insurance, healthy food, and higher mortality rates for nearly all major diseases, including maternal and infant mortality. The risk of suicide is reportedly lower, but rising rapidly. It hits home, literally, and leaves a trail of devastation in its wake. Okay. And please hit the like button if you have not already. Please hit that like button, please. Young Black teens and men are at peak suicide risk. Are at peak suicide risk. Rates decline through the elder years, whereas the number is reversed in the wider population, where suicide peaks between ages 45 to 54, decline until the mid 70s, and begin to rise. Young Black men commit suicide at more than 3 times the rate of Black women. But according to the SPRC, compared to the overall US population, a higher percentage of Black youth have attempted suicide in the past year, and Black youth reporting a suicide attempt that required treatment was about equal to the overall US population, right? Now, here's the important part. I have it highlighted in blue as I typically do when something's really important. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry says that the suicide rate among Black youth has risen faster than in any other racial ethnic group in the past 2 decades. I find that very interesting, especially given the fact that the first piece of evidence that we went through, they talked about gun violence surging and being the number one death of children in the Black community that has happened over the course of the last 2 decades. And now we're seeing here simultaneously, right? Suicide death among young black teens, particularly young Black boys, has also, quote, risen faster than in any other racial ethnic group in what the past 2 decades. Okay. So look at the correlations there. Look at the connections there that we have here. You won't get this stuff from Kamala Harris, don't you? Definitely won't get it from, MSNBC, CNN, and all them other folks out here that's supposed to be on Black folks' side, right? So let me read this quote again. Risen faster than in any other racial ethnic group in the past 2 decades, with suicide rates in Black males 10 to 19 years old increasing by 60%. So suicide rates with Black males ages 10 to 19 years old has increased by 60%. Early adolescent Black youth are twice as likely to die by suicide compared to their white counterparts. Don't believe me. What? Believe the evidence. Always believe the evidence. What we have going on here, as far as gun violence in the Black community is concerned, it is not an issue of gun control. We don't need more gun control. And I'm not saying that I'm opposed to gun control. I'm not opposed to common sense gun control. There should be background checks and a lot of just basic common sense things, right? I'm not opposed to these things. But what I'm opposed to is the wickedness, right, that these Democrats engage in and that we see Kamala Harris engaging in, where as opposed to just coming to you and saying, hey, we want to do this gun control thing, right? And we want to do it because of X, Y, and Z. Instead, they manipulate your situation and they manipulate data to make you believe that the gun violence that exists in your community is because of the lack of gun control laws or the need to strengthen gun control laws, when that is a lie. It's a lie. The evidence showed us, and the evidence proves that it is an economic issue first and a mental health issue second. Gun control laws and easy access to guns by those who shouldn't have it, that's way at the bottom of the list. That's a non-issue. It has nothing to do with nothing when we're talking about gun violence in the Black community, right? So that does it for this portion of the stream, and we do have a little bit of time left. So like I told you all before, I guess I have a little time to tell my story now, right? But before we do so, if this was a fruitful conversation, please do me a favor. If this was a fruitful conversation, if you learned something new, if you just enjoyed today's content, today's live stream, just leave me a thumbs up in the live chat right now. Throw a thumbs up in the live chat, and also if you haven't already, hit the like button, as I always say, and subscribe if you're new. If you're over here shadow watching, you're new to the channel, or maybe you're always over here but you never subscribe, hit the subscribe button, man. Show your voice some love. Hit the subscribe button and make sure you share this out on all your social media platforms, and Twitter and all that good stuff, right? And I see the ones coming in. That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, I'll put our queen on the screen right now, right? I'll just put her back on the screen as we head out of here.
In our country already.
That's our Queen Kamala, right? Okay, so like I said, we have a little time. I got a little 10 minutes to tell you guys this little funny story. I think it's funny, right? And I'm gonna send this to my friend too, right? But I want to say, okay, a really good friend of mine, and I've actually spoken about him before on here, right? A really good friend of mine that I grew up with in Chicago. You know, a while ago, one of the last times that we spoke was the first time we spoke in like almost a year and a half to almost close to 2 years, right? It was almost the first time we had spoken, almost a year and a half to 2 years. So we spoke, and that part was brought up, and it was like crazy, right? We couldn't believe that so much time had passed. Now, in that time period, we were texting one another and we sent each other little text messages and whatnot. But we hadn't spoken, and he's a very busy brother, man. He, went to college, got himself a good job, right? He's married with four beautiful daughters, right? A stay-at-home wife, they live in a nice house, a nice neighborhood, all that. So he's a very, very, very busy brother, and he has a schedule that he sticks to, and he's very meticulous, I think the word that I'm looking for, with that schedule, right? So I remember he told me, he was like, hey man, I'm gonna throw you on a schedule, bro. Let me throw you on a schedule so I at least remember to give you a shout, at least once a quarter, right? Every 3 months, right? Cool, bet. All right, bro. I'll holler at you like at least once a quarter, right? Because we can't have this kind of time going by between like talking like every 2 years. That's crazy, man. Life is too short. Time flies by too fast, man. Let's not lose connection like that. So I want to say, I want to say, like, he was good on that schedule. You know what I mean? For like the first like 2 times, he was even like kind of early with it. Supposed to call me at least once every 3 months. He called me like the first time like 2 months in, and then I think he called me again like a week afterwards. And all right, cool, bet, right? But now it's looking like my boy took me out of rotation, man. It's looking like my brother took me out of rotation because it's been about 2 quarters now. It's been about 2 good quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters. All right. But about 2 quarters now, where I haven't heard from him. I haven't heard anything from him. What's 2 quarters? What is that? What's that? 12. Yeah, it's been 6. Yeah, about I want to say about 6 months, 6.5 months. Haven't heard from him. Took me out of rotation, and I believe that it's Kamala Harris that's driving a wedge between our friendship. I believe it's Kamala Harris that's driving a wedge between our friendship, right? Because all right, 2 quarters is 6 months. Got it. Perfect, right? Why, Rob? Why you gotta say it with an attitude? Why? Look at Rob. It's 6 months, bro. I can hear his deep voice right now. It's 6 months, bro. It's 6 months, bro. Why you gotta say it with an attitude, man? But anyways, man, he took me out of rotation. I haven't heard from him in about 2 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters, man. It's been about like 6, possibly 8 months. I haven't heard from the brother, and I think it's because of Kamala Harris. Because look, man, that's my family. You know what I mean? That's my family, and I love them, but they love them some Kamala Harris and Barack Obama in their household. They love them some Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, and if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, his wife is an AKA. Oh yes, she's part of the Ski Wee team. My brother's wife is ski pinky fingers in the air and all. So I don't know if we have like kind of a Will Smith, um a Will Smith, what's my man's name? I was gonna say Chris Tucker, Chris Rock situation going on, you know what I mean? Because I know like he doesn't really mind too much that I be going in on Kamala a lot. I make a lot of videos going in on Kamala Harris and exposing her. Like I said, the wife is ski wee, and it might be like the Will Smith Chris Rock dynamic where like he'll watch my videos and he's cool, he's not tripping, he'll kind of just chuckle along like, yeah, whatever, TD crazy. But then he looked over at the wife like how Will Smith looked over at Jada, and she not laughing. She's ski wee, so she don't find it humorous that I keep going in on Kamala. And I don't know, man. I'm thinking she might have like whispered a little something in his ear, like it's time to drop him. It's time to drop him. It's time to drop TD. Enough of that already. Y'all not in high school no more. Y'all done grown apart. And he over here dissing Kamala, knowing that I'm ski wee. You gotta drop him, babe. And I think that's what he did. I think he dropped him because, like I said, it's been 6 to 8 months. I haven't heard from the brother. I don't know where he went. I guess technically I could call him, and I should, but no, He's the one that made the commitment and said that he was gonna put me on the schedule. So I'm gonna send this last portion of the video to him. All right, I'm gonna send this last portion of the video to him, and let him know that I put him on blast publicly for dropping me. Okay, but lad, that's what it's looking like, man. Looking like my boy. We've been friends for over 20 years now, man. Over 20 years. Me and him met when I was 15. He was 16. Been friends going on 20 plus years strong. But man, it's looking like Kamala Harris to put a wedge in between our friendship. 20 years down the drain, all because of Ski Wee. So shout out to FBA Key with the super chat. I appreciate the support, brother. He said, hey now, great brother. Just tapping in one time with the family. Great topic. I appreciate the support, FBAK. Thank you very much for the super chat. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button, share this out. Thank everybody. Thank you to everyone who showed support to today's show. I believe this was a very fruitful discussion and conversation. And just make sure, like I said, you share this out, because this is really important information that people have to understand, right? We're being lied to right now concerning this whole issue surrounding gun control. Like I said, I'm not opposed to common sense gun control law, but I am opposed to our folks being lied to as to why we need it. Just shoot straight with me, shoot straight with us. If you want to do the whole gun control thing, go ahead and do it. Just tell us why you want to do it, right? And don't conflate the issue of mass shootings with gun violence in the Black community, because as the evidence has just shown us, the evidence, not TD, the evidence shows us that gun violence in the Black community is largely and mainly, primarily an issue of economics first, and mental health second. Mental health as it pertains to suicide. So thank you all for joining me today. I will catch you guys next Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And in between then, obviously, I will be dropping pre-recorded videos as well. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for joining me. Hit the like button on your way out. Peace.